How are you? I'm Jeffrey Rima. We're talking about a multi-engine cross-country flight. Our scenario today, we're flying our family members from the New England area out to the Midwest in our new multi-engine aircraft that we just bought and just had a checkout in. We're going to talk about some of the risk factors, some of the operations of that aircraft, and some things we need to be really taking into consideration when we just bought our new airplane. We're assuming that we're a private pilot multi-engine, but it doesn't really specify how many hours we have behind a multi-engine, but it does say that we just bought a new aircraft and just had a checkout in it. So we'll talk about some of the factors that go into this. First, normal operations in a light twin are very similar to the normal operations of flying single-engine airplanes, to the best of my understanding. The main difference in flying light twin-engine aircraft is knowing the difference, what to do. Knowing what to do when one of those engines fail, right? Because though multi-engine are great, and sometimes they provide us a little bit more performance, a little bit useful load and different factors like that, they can also be a hazard if we don't know how to operate that in case we have some kind of malfunction, right? And as we learned this week, just because an airplane has multi-engine, the light twin is not rated for a specific climb rate with one engine inoperative, right? So if we do have that failure, we need to know how far we're going to be able to go. Is the airplane going to be able to climb? Maybe, maybe not. It's depending on the manufacturer. The manufacturer only has to publish a known performance value for the airplane. That could be a negative climb or a positive climb, depending on the airplane. So it's very important that we know that, especially if we bought a brand new aircraft. Some things to consider when flying across country, whether it be in a multi or single engine aircraft, is single pilot resource management. So the FAA likes the 5P model, and quite frankly, I do too. And it's easy to remember. It's the pilot needs to know the plan, the plane needs to know themselves, needs to know their passengers, and needs to set expectations with their passengers, and they need to understand the programming. So for the plan, it's very simple. Understand the weather. Get a weather briefing for your route. Know your route. Know your fuel consumption, and know the publications like NOTAMs and things like that may pop up along your route. So it's very important. Get a weather briefing. If you're going to be flying a long cross country like the one we're trying to embark on, make sure you get the weather. Make sure you plan an appropriate route. Are you going to have to stop for fuel? It sounds like, based off our flight, we're probably likely going to have to stop for fuel. So plan your route accordingly. Plan a route that will take you to a desired destination for fuel. Maybe somewhere that's cheap enough. Maybe somewhere that has self-serve fuel if you're going at night, or somewhere that has 24-hour service. So it really depends. The plane. This is a brand new plane to us in our scenario, so make sure you really get an understanding of the airframe, the systems, its equipment, and avionics, right? Avionics is very important. We're going to hit that a little bit later in programming. Also the pilot. Make sure the pilot runs the I'm Safe checklist. Make sure they're actually ready to embark on this long journey. Make sure they don't have any illness, medication, stress, alcohol. Fatigue is going to be a big one for this one. We're talking about flying a very long way in a multi-engine airplane. We need to be on our game. And then make sure there's no emotional value that you're placing extra stress on this airplane. On this flight. And then passengers. Your passengers are going to have physiological issues. They might have anxiety about flying, or they might have this overbearing desire to arrive. Make sure you set expectations with them. Make sure they know if they have physiological issues, they can let the pilot know so you can make arrangements, right? If one of your passengers has to go to the bathroom, maybe you have to divert, stop off somewhere. It's a good time to get fuel. Maybe stop in at the FBO or see a new town somewhere. Let them take care of their physiological issues. Also, anxiety. Sometimes flying with new passengers or even passengers who are unfamiliar with general aviation, it causes a lot of anxiety. So it's definitely important to go over that with the passengers and set expectations for them if they do start having a unhealthy level of anxiety about flying. The programming. It's very important. Understand how our autopilot works, our avionics works. If we have tablet on the plane, how to use that. Maybe bring spare batteries just in case, in case we're trying to use that as our primary source of maps and things like that. Always have backups. But, in the 21st century, I like to use tablets. I know people do. Make sure you have enough battery to keep those things going so you can use them effectively. So for safety on this flight, it's very important on long cross-country trips, the pilot reviews the weather. I know we already talked about that, but I wanted to hit on it just one more time. It's very important. The weather is going to change over the course of a long flight like this cross country. So make sure you get an update. Make sure you get understand where you can get updates while en route. See if maybe your avionics will give you updated weather. A lot of new avionics suites with NexRad and Sirius XM weather data and stuff like that will give you weather along your route. It'll give you winds aloft, all kinds of great things. So make sure you know if your airplane can do that. In a new aircraft, this weather gathering and all these information gathering could be different, or I'm sorry, it could be difficult depending on your familiarity with the avionics and other systems. So make sure you really get familiar with those avionics, and then gain as much training as possible. If it's a new avionics suite, a new airplane to you, don't just get a checkout. Maybe go on a long flight with a CFI or an MEI, or get some ground training. Just something to help you out, make sure you are familiar with your aircraft, because it's important and it can greatly increase safety if you do. The other thing is risk management. So as pilots, we're always trying to mitigate risk, right? And the way we do that is we identify the hazards, we assess the risks, we analyze control measures, we make controlled decisions, then we use those controlled decisions, and then we monitor the results. So another way to think about this is the decide model. So the first thing we do is we detect the issue, or we detect the hazard, right? Then we estimate the amount of risk that is associated with this hazard, right? And we can do that with the tools that FAA gives you for the hazard or the risk tools, and we can put a categorize it. So how likely is it to occur, and if it does occur, what's the severity? And then maybe it's very likely to occur, but the severity is low, or it's extremely unlikely to occur, but the severity is high. So we can assess those risks and put them into categories and try to eliminate as many of those risks as we can, and then mitigate the ones that we can't. And then choose. So choose the action to take, right? And choose a desired outcome, right? And then identify the desired outcome too. So we choose a desired outcome, and then we identify and actually do the desired outcome. So it's great to do all the first 4 steps, but eventually you have to actually do the step. And then you evaluate the outcome of those, evaluate the result. And then if the result is unsatisfactory to you, start over. Detect, estimate, and choose a new desired outcome. So these are some of the resources that I used for preparing this. I used the FAST Team Single Pilot Resource Management checklist, which you gave us. I used the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, and I used the Risk Management Handbook. These are all great handbooks that the FAA provides for free. You can also get printed copies of them, but these are the ones I used for my report this week. Hope you have some good feedback for me. I look forward to learning more about the multi-engine airplane and some of the factors involved. It sounds like we have a busy course and a lot of things to do here in the next 8 weeks. I look forward to it and look forward to hearing back what you have to say. Thank you.